Service this afternoon begins with military honors.
This time we will begin our service with military honors. I'm going to ask those who are able to rise. If you are currently serving in the military or have served,
States Army and a grateful nation. Please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
Begin this service with a reading from the book of Psalms. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai mi yagur ba'ohalecha, Mishkon behar kodshecha. Holech tamim ufoel tzedek, vidover emet bilvavo. Lo ragal alishono, lo asa l're'ehu ra'a, v'cher palo nasa al krovo. Nivze be'einav nimas, ve'et yirei Adonai yechabed. Nishba lehara ve'lo yamir, kaspo lo natan beneshech v'shochad al naki lo lakach. Ose ele lo yimot le'olam. O Lord, who shall dwell in your sanctuary? Who shall abide upon your holy mountain? He who lived with integrity, did what was right, and spoke the truth in his heart, who had no slander upon his tongue, who did no evil to his fellow man, who did not reproach his neighbor. In his eyes a vile person is despised, but he honors those who revere the Lord. He takes an oath even to his own harm. He does not take advantage of the poor. He does not take a bribe against the innocent. Whoever does these things shall stand firm forever. And from the writings of Ben Sira, reflections on life and when a life comes to an end. Fear not death. We are destined to die. We share it with all who ever lived, with all who ever will be. Bewail the dead. Hide not your grief. Do not restrain your mourning. But remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory rest and be consoled when the soul departs. Death is better than a life of pain and eternal rest than constant sickness. Seek not to understand what is too difficult for you. Search not for what is hidden from you. Be not overoccupied with what is beyond you, for you have been shown more than you can understand. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. The good things in life last for limited days, but a good name endures forever. O God, our heavenly parent, you redeem our souls from the grave. You are the rock of our salvation. Forsake us not in time of trouble, in days of distress and desolation. Help us to endure, O Lord, for we have placed our hope in you. It's my honor now to call on Rabbi Joshua Foster, representing Congregation B'nai Yeshurun.
Please join me in reciting Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I know Jerry and your entire family Jerry was and the entire family very committed, devoted congregants at B'nai Yeshurun, and I wanted to share some words from Rabbi Rudin Luria and the congregation. Jerry was a towering figure at B'nai Yeshurun congregation, not just because of his physical stature, larger than life, more so for his big heart. We are all grateful for Jerry's dedication to our community, his leadership and countless contributions over so many years. I am so sorry that I cannot be with you, but I send these words to all of you from Jerusalem. When I first met Marcia and Jerry in Cleveland more than 20 years ago, I still recall like it was yesterday how Jerry shared his story. Growing up in Germany with his sister, of the rise of Nazism and Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, which we just commemorated the 84th anniversary last week. When Jerry was a school child, and he told me how the Nazis attacked his school, throwing books through the windows, burning them ablaze, how his family was able to escape, Holocaust survivors on the run, able to build a new life from the ashes of the Shoah here in Cleveland, how his family, upon their arrival, sought to find community, a synagogue with only $25 to their name, approached Rabbi Rosenthal to see if they could join when they couldn't afford membership dues. Rabbi Rosenthal welcomed them with open arms, and it has been a lifetime of involvement here, with now 3 generations of Rothschilds, Bennetts, and Mansours raised in our synagogue, leading our congregation. We had the honor to celebrate Jerry and Marcia as our tribute dinner honorees, one of our highest honors, in 2006. And Jerry and Marcia were featured and interviewed in our synagogue's 150th anniversary documentary. Pillars of our congregation. Jerry was a board member for many years, sat on our investment committee and chaired our budget and finance committees and dues appeals, 2 of the most important and thankless positions, ensuring the financial stability of our congregation and ensuring that anyone, regardless of financial circumstance, could remain a part of our community. Even more than his leadership and the role models that Jerry and Marcia have been for our shul, Jerry modeled what it meant to be a Jew and a mensch, a commitment to family, community, and our heritage, to ensuring a vibrant Jewish future, to always remember the Holocaust and never forget, to making synagogue a second home for his family, well, maybe third home after Chautauqua. And I will never forget the smile on his face when we celebrated each of his grandchildren's B'nai Mitzvah on our bima, or when they led services or chanted Torah. Even as his health declined and it was a struggle, Jerry was undeterred, determined to come to shul for the holidays and any time the kids were leading. Another moment we saw his inner will, incredible strength and conviction, ability to overcome. He'd wheel himself up, not even sure how much he could hear, but our towering figure, Jerry, stood tall, filled with pride. He was home. He had succeeded in helping to set the course for our congregation, and most importantly, built this amazing family, whom we are so honored to be part of our congregation. May we all carry on his legacy and aspire to stand as tall and large as he was. May his memory only bring blessings. Yehi Zichro Baruch.
I'd like to now call on some members of the family to share their thoughts At first, we'll call on the grandchildren. Make sure whoever's speaking right into the microphone.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. First, we'll share some words from Papa's oldest grandchild, first grandson, and Laura's son, Andrew. It's so tough to describe Papa in a few words, someone who meant the world to me my entire life, who impacted not only the lives of his family, but also the entire community. So many times growing up, and even into adulthood, I was introduced to people at synagogue, Chautauqua, and even Bahama Breeze as Jerry's grandson. I couldn't be more proud of that title. Everybody knew him, respected him, and loved him. Whenever we were out in public, he couldn't go 5 minutes without running into someone he knew. Papa was one of my biggest role models in life, figuratively and literally, and I've spent a lot of my life utilizing his wisdom and guidance. I looked to Papa for advice about my career, and while I didn't end up as an accountant or doctor, I think he was proud of the way I turned out. He would always call me with his latest stock pick and spark a discussion about what stocks I liked. This usually turned into me having to remind him of the 50-year difference in our investment horizons, but I think he was really just happy to talk about one of his passions with someone. That said, Papa always had a fun and goofy side as well. He would constantly roast me and other family members about whatever was easy to make fun of at the time. He was so lighthearted, cracking jokes all the time. He was always down for any fun activity that crossed his path. As the first grandchild to turn 10, Nana and Papa's generous birthday gift was to take me on a cruise in the Caribbean. I think Papa had as much fun as I did, shooting hoops with me on the deck, feasting at every buffet available, and enjoying every day of jam-packed excursions. When I was in college, he came to visit, along with Barry and Bradley, for the Ohio State-Indiana football game. I brought him into the fraternity house, and I could tell he was reminiscing about the glory days. Connecting with him over school, work, sports, relationships, and so many activities made every second I spent with him amazing. I love you, Papa, and I'll always cherish our time together. Now some words from myself. I am Miriam, Laura's second child, only daughter, and Papa's first granddaughter. Last night, I wrote this out about 4 times and came to the conclusion that there's just simply too much to say about Papa. He was brilliant, loving, fun, supportive, loyal, well-liked, devoted, passionate, strong-willed, and incredibly family-oriented. His sense of humor was unmatched, and his passion for learning, whether from reading the paper, watching Meet the Press, or interrogating me about my job, was a driving force. I could go on, but what I really want to say about Papa is how incredible of an example he set for me and my cousins. He set the best possible example for building a successful career, managing finances, and rooting for winning teams. Go Bucks. But most importantly, he demonstrated the importance of family. First and foremost, Papa knew true love. Nana, he loved you so much. Every kiss he gave you, every hug, every compromise, I learned what true love looks like and how to keep it alive for 67 years of marriage. Secondly, Papa showed up. He came to every one of my tennis matches, orchestra concerts, award ceremonies, a cappella concerts, Torah readings, and graduations. Papa was the definition of best grandpa ever in so many ways, but especially in showing up and supporting his family always. To Papa, family wasn't just major holiday dinners and birthday phone calls, but it was spending every celebration together, from one-on-ones with the grandkids to Mother's Day and Father's Day to Pesach with 50 people. It was looking out for one another. It was Yankee, Yankee, and Yankee stories. It was the 10-year-old trip. It was telling each grandchild they were secretly his favorite. It was summers in Chautauqua, and it was so much more. He was and forever will be our rock, our patriarch, our captain, our Papa. Now some words on behalf of the next granddaughter. Jessie is Joyce's eldest daughter. It is hard to distill all of my memories with Papa into a single paragraph, but one story I'll always remember was the time he babysat me in Chautauqua. I was probably 5 or 6, and he was sitting in his usual spot on the couch watching the news, blaring. As a 5-year-old, the news was not that captivating, so I told him I was going upstairs to play with some toys. About an hour or so later, I walked back downstairs as Papa burst through the door completely out of breath and frazzled. I'd never seen him frazzled before. Apparently, he had biked all over the grounds looking for me, thinking I had left the house and he had lost me, ironically leaving me all alone. He had only come back to see if I had come home. I love this story because I feel like it speaks to so much about Papa. First, he couldn't hear anything and sometimes didn't listen, which is why he didn't hear me say I was going upstairs. Second, he was very set in his ways and routines, always ate the same things, watched the news, did Sudoku every morning. Not even babysitting me would disrupt his routine and keep him from knowing what was going on in the world. But most importantly, that Papa loved his family and his grandkids more than anything. I always knew that Papa would do anything possible to protect me and make sure I knew how much he loved me, even if it meant biking all around Chautauqua for an hour just to make sure I was safe. I love you so much, Papa, and will always remember the love you had for our family.
This is from Lily, my older sister, and Barry's oldest. One way Papa and I are similar is that we both appreciate quality time. Even when I moved away for college, 6 months wouldn't go by without going to lunch with Papa one-on-one. As I got older, I would brace myself for a bit for these lunches with Papa, not knowing if he would approve of the travel I had in mind or the fact that I don't have a clear investment thesis to deliver for him. Papa took these lunches to always remind me to study hard and re-emphasize other lessons that he had probably previously taught me. Papa wasn't trying to be repetitive to hear himself say the same things again and again. Well, maybe a little bit of that. But Papa's goals and values were always top of mind, and he taught me to be the same. He was always in pursuit of making his family stronger, happier, and more united. And while he accomplished so many of his tangible goals, he was endlessly driven to keep pulling our family closer and closer together. Papa loved to learn, going to concerts and lectures multiple times a week in Chautauqua. He had such a deep appreciation for the arts, especially when the pianist was in town. Guilted into, or when I voluntarily, my favorite memories with Papa were to watch the Chautauqua Ballet Company together. At the time I was a dancer myself, and Papa would lean over and whisper in my ear that I could do what the ballerinas on the amphitheater stage did so gracefully. This summer, Papa and I went to the ballet for the last time together. After dozens of ballet performances, he remained in awe of their talent and beauty. Papa, I will always strive to become even closer with my cousins, whether they like it or not, and arrive at each ballet performance with a renewed sense of awe and appreciation, just like you. These are a few words from Emma, Joyce's youngest. While there are a million stories about Papa, as we've heard today, one that always stuck out to me was Labor Day a few years ago. We all arrived in Chautauqua late on that Friday night. And when we all woke up in the morning, we noticed that there was a boat on the dock that didn't look like ours. We began to get worried that someone was parked on our dock. And then Papa came out onto the porch and calmly says, "That's our new boat." We all were a bit confused, and he explained that while our family's boat was special to him, he wanted something that would last the grandchildren and the next generation in our family. He wanted to make sure that there was something that was keeping us all together. My favorite part of this story, though, is not how it shows how generous Papa was or how much he valued family. Papa explained to us that the idea came to him in a dream, and the next day he pulled the trigger. I love his fabulous eccentricity. I'm so proud to carry on all of the values he instilled in us, and I'm proud that we are all able to continue his legacy together. I love you, Papa, and I'm so grateful you were such a steady, loving figure throughout our lives. This next one is on behalf of Brad. my twin, and one of Barry's youngest. One of my most cherished memories of Papa from this past summer. We spent our entire summer together at this house in Chautauqua, our favorite place on earth. Papa told us that this might be his last summer in Chautauqua. Now, I know he didn't get to do everything he wanted, but he did get to do some of his favorite things, one of which being watching his grandkids play sports. This time, it happened to be me playing in my softball championship game. While I was playing at third base, I could hardly pay attention to the game because it was so nice to see him in the stands smiling and talking to everyone like the Papa he always was. Papa would have been happier with me if I kept my eye on the ball, like he always taught me. It was the most happy and talkative I had seen him all summer, and that made it the highlight of my summer. Seeing Papa after the game and talking about it brought me back to the countless times I would go over to his house with a bag of Wise potato chips and some peanut M&Ms and watch a game talking about sports and life in general. My Papa always had solid, thoughtful advice for me and didn't hesitate to share it, even though he knew I didn't want to be an accountant. I may not be an accountant, but I will try my best to make you proud. And this last one is for me, and I'm the youngest grandchild. To say that I'm lucky to be one of his grandchildren is an understatement. It is a blessing that I'm truly grateful for and will be for the rest of my life. Papa gave us the most important gift of all. He taught us the importance of family. He showed us that family will always be there when you need it. I could stand here all day and reminisce about all the stories Papa was a part of or he told, and for those of you who knew him, that list could go forever. Papa was above all else a family man. He had the ability to have a witty comeback for almost any conversation. My Papa and Nana never asked for much. They always put family first. When Papa and Nana bought the house in Chautauqua, they knew exactly what they were doing. Papa knew he would be spending every single summer up there with his 4 children and 7 grandchildren, and that was the best gift ever given to us. Being able to see my amazing grandparents and cousins, not just on special occasions, but really getting quality time with everyone, that was all Papa. And I'll forever be grateful for that. For as long as I can remember, Papa was always sitting on that bright blue porch with Nana right by his side, waiting for me and my cousins to come home and have lunch with us and ask about our day. And he never stopped asking. Papa was so curious about everyone else. He wanted to know how our lives were going, if we were making the right decisions, because after all, we were his grandchildren, and he wanted nothing short of perfection for us. He always cared so much, not just about his family, but everyone he had ever come in contact with. No matter if he was asking you about a friend, about a new job, or even just about your day, he wanted to make sure you always made the right decisions. He always made me feel like I was the most important person in the room. He was my greatest supporter, and he told me I could achieve anything I put my mind to. He was a courageous man who taught me the importance of discipline and hard work, and I'll love you forever, Pop. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the grandchildren for their beautiful words, and now call on 2 of Jerry's children, Laura and Barry.
Hi. I'm Jerry's oldest daughter, Laura Bennett. So I guess being the oldest, I got to go first. I want to thank you all for being here. I think, maybe a good idea. I think Dad would love to have seen all his friends and family gather here and said, enough about me, let's go get Hawa. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Phyllis and Tina and her team for taking such compassionate care and concern for Dad over the last couple of months. I wanted to share with you a farewell letter to my dad. Dear Dad, I will miss you so much. I respected and sought out your advice and opinion on every major decision in my life except one, my decision to marry Michael. That was a no-brainer. And you welcomed him into the family with open arms. While these last few months have been challenging, your family has remained your focus. You taught me so much as a daughter and as a parent. I know you loved us unequivocally, but truth be told, I was your first and favorite child. And I got extra points for being the first to produce grandchildren. After that, I was chopped liver. Seriously, though, all your grandchildren became your pride and joy. I know as much as you loved us, you always loved Mom more. For example, you loved planning great surprise parties for her birthdays in Chautauqua. I did not always love that you were frank, but your advice and observations were always wise and made me look at things differently. I appreciated that you were meticulous and organized, like having a 32-point checklist on how to close up the Chautauqua house. You also taught me that you could take risks and you could be adventurous, even when you're 80 years old and decide to parachute out of a plane. I guess sometimes that quality skips a generation. I will miss your passion for the things you cared about, which drove your generosity and your success. Your standards were high, and we all struggled to meet them, but you were never one to care much about what others think or what's trendy. You focused more on how you wanted to go through life. Above all, I learned from you never to settle, to always strive to be the best, my best. I can still hear you telling me, Laura, don't settle for something just because you can attain it. Find a way to achieve what you really want. Dad, I will always love you, honor you, and cherish all that you've given to me and my family.
I'm Barry, the favorite son. I'm reading this on behalf of my sister, Joyce. To honor his life and relationship, Joyce wrote this letter to her father, and she asked that I read her reflections. I hope you'll forgive me if I don't get through it okay. Dear Pop, recently I've spent a lot of time thinking about what defines a rich and full life. You lead a rich and full life. You led a rich and full life. When Dan and I moved from New York City with our girls, I wasn't quite ready to embrace Cleveland as home. But now, being surrounded by family for 16 years, I appreciate how that proximity has completely enriched my life and my family's life. Your marriage with Mom is remarkable. The love and devotion you and she shared throughout these 67 years gave Dan and me a model for our own marriage and partnership. Love, trust, honesty, and commitment were the foundation of your life together. We each turned to you for advice as we each forged our own paths into adulthood. You were tapped time and again, whether the issue was educational, professional, or just life. You were always available, except less available between January and tax day in April. To watch you and your grandchildren was a sight to behold, whether you were playing nine-man Morris and never letting the kids win despite the age gap, or when you sat down with them to discuss the investments you had chosen on their behalf. You were always completely engaged. I still picture you sitting on the curb of your Aurora home, blowing bubbles with a delighted 4-year-old Emma, with you looking equally delighted. I can still envision you and Mom watching Jessie play either lacrosse or tennis in high school. The 7 grandchildren, whom you see only 5 of here, guys, are closer than most siblings, and I credit you and Mom for instilling the importance of family to each of them and making life fun. Jewish holidays and 16 annual birthdays laid a blueprint for us for us of what family is and the importance of connection. Education was important to you and Mom. You strove to excel in high school and beyond. We strove to excel in high school and beyond. You educated and empowered us to pursue our own individual dreams and to love to learn. They say people who have great social connections live longer. You are proof of that. Friendships for you were a constant, demonstrated by your lifelong commitment to friends from elementary school to the Blue Noses and the Fogs, that's fat old guys sailing, to the Romeos, retired old men eating out. Who has a 90th birthday party with a guest list of 125 who are not all doctors? You loved them all and made time and attention for them. Many of his friends are here. You loved to tell a joke, never at the expense of someone else, unless they were in your presence. Your sense of humor added joy and laughter to life. Judaism had special importance to you since before your family fled Germany during the Holocaust. Mom and you instilled Jewish values in all of us. You made it a priority to be involved. In the synagogue. You never hesitated in volunteering in the men's club, serving on a committee, or investing Israel bonds. Our ceremonial Passover dinners, especially the hunt for the Afikomen, are an enduring memory we share with your sister Helga and her ever-expanding clan. Your guidance and wisdom about creating and running my own business were invaluable to me. You educated me with investments and retirement accounts. You were so generous with your time, and I loved our bi- and sometimes tri-weekly calls. While you passionately agreed with my decision to buy a third-floor walk-up on the Upper West Side in Manhattan, you also advised me well on investing the eventual capital gains. Finally, thank you for giving us the blessing of Chautauqua. The annual summer return to our Garden of Eden. Our entire family developed lifelong summer friendships and an eternal love of Chautauqua. Papa, you and Mom helped me define meaning and success by living a rich and full life. Love, family, friends, and faith are these cornerstones, none of which is possible without integrity and honesty. I feel so blessed and honored to have had you for so many years. I miss you already. All my love, Joyce. Now I'm going to talk on my behalf, and everybody's way more articulate than me, so I hope you'll forgive me. Just 1 second. Our name, my dad's name is Rothschild. That's Red Shield in English. In 1972, Dad bought a sunfish sailboat and christened her the Red Shield. This boat is a metaphor for many of my dad's endearing qualities. Her name is a reminder of Dad's Jewish-German roots. To strangers, our boat has a simple, tongue-in-cheek name. To us, it's a code for strong Jewish family, a clan that will stay together and thrive even through the terrible horrors of the Holocaust. In a strong yet quiet way, Dad supported that sense of heritage without being overbearing. A 14-foot boat may seem like a dinghy to you, but to Dad, it was a 100-foot yacht. He wasn't afraid to be proud of his one small boat fleet. He cherished the little Red Shield. He did more than value that boat. He took care of it with thought and elbow grease. How should it be moored? Where will we buoy this boat? Is there a way to get that bottom to shine even more? He was a consummate problem solver. Once he figured out that Gleam boat bottom cleaner would cut through a season's worth of algae, he'd apply a lot of elbow grease so that the hull would look like new. He was the hardest worker you could ever imagine, whether he was polishing the boat or hustling to build his business. If he asked you to wax a little harder, you know he had put in that effort once a long time ago too. I can't tell you how many late nights I heard my father working late into the night to the sounds of the lightning-fast adding machine calculations. What a great example of hard work pays off. If this boat could talk, I wonder how many thousands of pieces of advice, hard talks, and great laughs it could share. When Dad asked you to go for a sail, you knew it would be memorable, no matter how light the wind was. You see, my dad proved himself to be a keen listener, always asking about your business, turning over a topic with you in the middle of the lake to the point where he would develop an insight independently. He would base his insights on experiences and offer up sage advice. You knew that if Dad invited you out on the sailboat, he could very well have an agenda not easy to listen to. Now, when you're in the middle of Chautauqua, in Chautauqua Lake, you have one choice. You either have to listen or you're swimming home. It might have been politically incorrect, but once he came up with a point of view, things were pretty clear to him. And he would not back away from it. I can honestly say that the best talks I ever had with my dad were on the Red Shield. And Dad was that way with everyone, warmly asking about people's well-being, establishing ideas and offering up conversation and opinions in a way that was straight with strangers, friends, family, and me. It's a quality I aspire to. On that little craft was where I saw this warmth come out, whether we were capsized or we were really heeling on a close-hauled beat. For those of you who don't know sailing, that's going really fast into the wind. What a role model my dad has been for all of us. There are so many qualities I'll miss about him that I don't have time to share with you. My dad was a pretty down-to-earth guy with great aspirations that he ultimately accomplished. The pride he felt for his little red shield is the pride I have in saying that Gerald Rothschild was my dad. I want to add that Debbie, my wife, says that she hit the jackpot in having a dad. My dad is father-in-law. When Debbie came into my life, he immediately accepted her into our family and loved her as one of his own. I know she will miss Dad in a deep and profound way. She feels lucky to be part of the family Dad and Marcia created. I'm sorry, folks, but there's a lot to share about my father. I have one more set of thoughts to share on behalf of my sister, Linda. I feel the same sentiments as my siblings have expressed, which are shared by many who are here. I feel like this quote embodies my dad. Life is a song. Sing it. Life is a game. Play it. Life is a challenge. Meet it. Life is a dream. Realize it. Life is a sacrifice. Offer it. Life is love. Enjoy it. He thoroughly enjoyed life, and he had a great sense of humor and loved to laugh. He overcame challenges. The first when his family left Germany when he was just a little boy, and then in adulthood, starting his own thriving business. Dad dreamt big. He turned a short one-week vacation into putting down roots in Chautauqua Dad dreamt big. He turned a short 1-week vacation into putting down roots in Chautauqua, not just Cleveland. He realized his dream of nurturing a love of Chautauqua for his generations to come. And what a lofty legacy he left with so many cherished memories of Chautauqua. He looked forward to turning 90 and getting that free gate pass. Then, when he did turn 90, COVID hit and the summer season was canceled. So he made sure to attend every concert and lecture he could in the following summers. His love and devotion to our family has been unparalleled, and his love for Mom has been the foundation of our family and for building so many memories. Too many to tell. We will miss you terribly. You will always hold a special place in our hearts. I love you so very much.
We read in the book of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for being born and a time for dying, a time for planting and a time for uprooting the planted, a time for slaying and a time for healing, a time for ripping and a time for sowing, a time for silence and a time for speaking, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time for peace. There is a Jewish tradition that teaches that everything happens in its proper time, even if it may not seem that way to us. When we are confronted with the loss of a loved one, it never seems like the proper time, even if they had lived a long and full life like Gerald Rothschild. Although we cannot completely understand God's judgments, Ecclesiastes assures us that there is order and meaning in God's creation. And so today we have set aside time for reflection, time for remembering, and a time in which to find meaning. We have devoted and devote this time to remembering a man who was known for his kindness, generosity, practical nature, wisdom, thoughtfulness, success, and commitment to service. A man who, as we have heard, defined the word mensch. It cannot be mere coincidence that Jerry passed away during the week leading up to our reading of Parshat Chayei in the book of Genesis. The Torah portion consists of two main stories. The first is the death of our matriarch Sarah and Abraham's efforts to secure a burial ground. The second is the acquisition of a wife for their son Isaac. God had earlier promised Abraham two things: land and many descendants. And at this point, at the beginning of Parshat Chayei, Abraham had neither. So it was that Abraham set out to help make those promises come true by purchasing land in Eretz Yisrael for a burial plot, and then by securing a wife, Rebekah, for his son to bring forth a new generation. We learn a lot from Abraham and his approach. Life doesn't always go the way we want it to. What matters is how we respond, how we look ahead, how we plan for the future, and how we provide for our family. And it seems to me as if Jerry had learned, and I think we all heard from the stories, had learned from Abraham. Looking back over his life, we see that he bore out these lessons. I'm going to share just a few thoughts. I'm not going to go over things that have already been said by the family. But Jerry was born Gerd Hans Rothschild to Ernest and Hilda on February 2nd, 1930 in Frankfurt, Germany. He was fortunate that his family was able to come to the United States right after the terrible events of Kristallnacht, when Jerry was only 9 years old. As you heard, Jerry's father had only $25 to his name when they immigrated to Cleveland. Originally, Ernest had gone to a shul of fellow German Jews on Mayfield Road, but he couldn't afford it, so he made his way to the Heights Temple, or Temple on the Heights on the next block. He met Rabbi Rosenthal of blessed memory and asked if his kids could be educated there, to which the rabbi responded positively. This was Jerry's entrance into religious life in his new country, and it began an association, as we see, that spanned several generations. Even though Jerry wasn't very religious, he cared a great deal about B'nai Yeshurun. He believed that synagogues were the true centers of Jewish life, whether you were observant or not. As a child, he had seen his own school and synagogue burn on Kristallnacht, and it solidified his lifelong commitment to supporting the community. Although his father had a sponsor, it was necessary for the family to become self-sufficient here in the U.S. Jerry learned in school, but he also learned the importance of being independent. He took odd jobs, including selling beer at the old League Park. Despite his difficult early years, Jerry became strong and determined. He graduated from Cleveland Heights High School and then went on to the Ohio State University, where he was a member of Phi Sigma Delta. He became a CPA, and after a stint at Price Waterhouse, established his own private practice that eventually became Rothschild, Meckler and Company. On his way to building success in his career, Jerry served in the U.S. Army, where he was stationed at, among other places, Camp Kilmer in New Jersey. After completing basic training, he worked in the Army's finance section. One of his Army buddies had a cousin in New Jersey named Marcia Lawfer, whom he fixed up with Jerry. For him, it was love at first sight. And from what I can tell, Marcia liked him right away, too. He was kind to Marcia's mother, and the fact that he was tall and handsome didn't hurt either. Within a year, they were engaged, got married, and moved to Cleveland to begin their lives together and start a family. Marcia described Jerry as her rock. They enjoyed doing the same kinds of things and had the same values. Chief among them was always the importance of family. The obituary noted that Jerry scripted his life. It means that he was a planner and he thought ahead. And this led to Marcia and Jerry's decision to purchase that home in Chautauqua that the family would be able to enjoy together. While the children were still young, they bought this fixer-upper, which they improved over the years. And at first, they had only rented a home, but when they realized how special the experience could be, not just the lectures and the concerts and the boating and the friends, all those things that we associate with summertime in Chautauqua, but also being together with siblings and cousins, they established the family legacy that will outlive Jerry. Marcia and Jerry were blessed with 67 plus years of marriage, filled with love so great that it set an example for all who saw them, and as we heard, especially for their children and grandchildren. Marcia and Jerry did whatever they could to ensure a wonderful childhood for Laura, Joyce, Barry, and Linda. More than just the experiences at Chautauqua, they provided a home that was loving, encouraging, and secure. Jerry challenged them to think about their futures and their potential. He didn't do this to be tough on them, but because he cared so much about them. He felt it was his responsibility to make sure that they could benefit from the lessons he had learned early in life. And of course, Jerry had a most special place in his heart for his grandchildren, whom they called Papa. Not only was he at sporting events and programs, as we heard, but he made an effort to develop a unique relationship with every single one of the grandchildren. On Monday evening, when I met with the family, they shared that he told each one of the grandchildren that they were his favorite, and they believed it, and it was true. Jerry and Marcia took each of the grandchildren on a trip when they turned 10, and as they got older, he cherished the one-on-one time he could spend with them, with lunch being a prime vehicle for those meetings. And as a group, the grandchildren knew that the day after Thanksgiving was lunch with just their Nana and Papa. But as a Papa, he went above and beyond. Just as he helped to bring out the potential in each of his kids, Jerry sought it in his grandchildren as well. He did what he could to ensure their future success, challenging them just as he had challenged their parents when they were younger. They noted that their Papa was serious about a lot of things, synagogue, business, Judaism, but he did have that goofy side. He had no filter when it came to humor and could always be counted on to crack a joke or share funny ones by email. And from what I was told, no one was safe around him. He said what he said in an unfiltered way, but the way he expressed it came from a kind-hearted, loving place. Additionally, Jerry showed interest in the lives of the grandchildren's friends. He kept up on the latest news in their lives, and they loved Jerry too. Jerry was so very proud of his grandchildren, and they gave him every reason to feel that way. Jerry's personality drew so many people into his circle. He and Marcia had so many good friends. He was a member of the Romeos and the Foggs. His friends meant so much to him, and he meant so much to them. He was the kind of person not afraid to talk to strangers. He had a way of knowing how to reach people and make them feel cared for. Even though his comments were often unfiltered, it never seemed offensive because it came from a place of concern and respect. There is just so much that could be said about Jerry, even more than what we've said already. He was on the one hand a creature of habit, on the other hand adventuresome, jumping out of the plane on his 80th birthday, and even once driving a semi-truck. He loved to boat and teaching his grandchildren how to properly care for the boat. He liked to be challenged intellectually, attending lectures, reading the paper, watching Meet the Press. He was fun-loving, loyal, smart, kind, genuine, a man of integrity. But above all, he was, in a word, a mensch. His family, his friends, our community, indeed all of us were blessed to have Jerry in our lives. I began my remarks by mentioning the parallels to Abraham in this week's Torah portion. Like Abraham, Jerry's early life was not easy. He had to travel very far with very little. Like our first patriarch, he was confronted with challenges, and when he did not look back. Rather, he set forth a plan to provide for himself, his wife, his children, and grandchildren. And also, like Abraham, his commitment to our people, be it at B'nai Yeshurun or through other communal institutions, set an example for others of sacrifice and faith. Just as Abraham has guided us over centuries, Jerry's life will inspire us in the years ahead, assuring that his soul will be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. Tehei Zichrono Baruch, may his memory be a blessing. On behalf of everyone at B'nai Yeshurun and everyone in the community, we extend our deepest condolences to everyone, to the family and friends, to his wife Marcia, to children Laura and Michael, Joyce and Dan, Barry and Debbie and Linda, to grandchildren Andrew, Miriam, Jesse, Emma, Lily, Bradley, and Melissa, and to everyone else in the extended family. We wish you Hamakom Yinachem Etchem B'Tok Shar Avelei Sion Yerushalayim. May be comforted together with all others among our people who are in mourning. And we say, Amen. In terms of announcements, immediately following this service, we will proceed to Chesterland Memorial Park in procession. The family will receive visitors at the residence of Debbie and Barry Rothschild at 32025 Burlwood Drive in Solon, following the cemetery service until 8 p.m. this evening. And then again tomorrow evening from 7 to 9, and on Friday from 1 to 4, and then again on Sunday from 7 to 9. This evening and tomorrow evening and Sunday evening there will be minyan at 7 p.m. At this point we'll recite the memorial prayer, the El Malei Rachamim. All those who are able, please rise. Emelei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Uteorim, Kezarakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Hirsch Tzvi ben Yitzchak V'Mina, Shehalach Le'olamo, Began Eden Tehei Menuchato, Ana Bal HaRachamim, Hasireu B'Seter Kenafecha Le'olamim, Utzror B'Tzror Chayim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach V'Shalom Al Mishkavo, V'Nomar, Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure. To the soul of Gerald Rothschild, Hirsch Tzvi ben Yitzchak V'Mina, who has gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that he performed in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is his portion. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated for a moment.
there's a, you don't get that from.
I thought you were going to have Melanie delivered.
Oh, I would have done that. Usually go there on Tuesday. She goes, I've been seeing the Berkowitz stuff.
What happened? We were going to go there last night. I had my COVID shot on Monday.
Who's had it? In the
I
yard.
want to get one. I got CVS. You just go online. CVS. I had it Monday. I feel great. And yesterday afternoon, about 3 o'clock,
You just had to lay down.
you
just had to lay down. The symptom is like you just feel like there's no specific symptom. It's just I gotta sit down.
Right.
I had that happen. Not my booster.
Go on CVS.com.
Sign up ahead of time.
No, it's very easy. Just last week.
It gets done in, it takes 1 second.
I live there, I know that's wrong.
Yeah, they come up all the time.
No, I really enjoyed your dad's friendship. Your car's right there. Okay, watch it.